Alright, people, what's going on? It is me, indeed, East Coast Gamer, slash huge Knicks fan, slash huge NBA fan. I got a video today kind of talking about my thoughts on the NBA product. And why am I talking about this? Oh, well, East Coast Gamer, you're a fan, obviously. You love the NBA. Why would you care about the product? Uh, I have some thoughts on where the league is right now, where I think it's going, and my concern, because I do have some concern. Now, first thing first, I've been watching the NBA for 10 years now. I used to watch it as a kid with my dad, but you don't remember those things. Like, I remember certain things, but I'm born in '96, so I missed out on the Jordan era, the '90s, the '80s, the '70s, the '60s. Most people will say the '80s and '90s are the golden era of basketball, and put that in parentheses because I don't know because I didn't live through it. Um, you don't know if it's old heads saying it or is it actuality. Although I do think that the product was much better back then due to the balance of teams and the balance of play. So I would say personally, I think that is the golden era. And there's a little spin in that as well because obviously Michael Jordan and how they used him to kind of make the league what it is now, make basketball a national brand. I mean, everybody can play basketball. It's played in every country. Um, so I think that parts of that are very true. There's some fantasies or exaggerations of how great the product was because it was great. Don't get me wrong, it was great, but uh, you know, certain things about the product were a little sloppy. Like obviously the amazing defense. Don't get me wrong, was tremendous. The tremendous fights, all that stuff was great, but it's not a critique on the eras. I think every era has its beauties. But you can critique every era too, obviously. Um, but I do think that that was like the best era of basketball. And again, you'll have people say the 2000s was. You'll have older people say the 60s and 70s. It depends on what your opinion is. I personally think that if you could take from each era and combine it, it would be amazing. I'm not here to critique what you think. I think every era has its specialties and its flaws, as everything does. You're just trying to be unbiased, as you should be. But in this era, you know, and I go back and forth with my friends on this because the All Star game just came up and I hadn't watched All Star festivities in so long consistently. Like I either watched the skills challenge, or I either watch Saturday and Friday and don't watch Sunday, or I watch Sunday don't watch Saturday and Friday. And why I bring it up is because it's really striking how the product has changed so much and how the league is going. What I mean by that is, you're first of all, dunk contest. You're gonna hear people say that the dunk contest is dead. They say that every time. You just need one or two really good dunkers to be in it, and it's usually fun. The dunk contest really depends, honestly, because some years it's great and some years it's bad. You'll have your Vince Carter years, and you'll have your Jason Richardson years, although he had some good dunks. No offense to Jay Rich. It's like it really depends. When the stars are actually doing it, it's great. But you'll have guys like John Morant say, "Oh, I don't want to play in it because you see how the judges scored." It's like, bro, if you are a great dunker, you're gonna win regardless. So what does it matter? You're not gonna get ripped off. Just my personal opinion. And where am I going with this? Is kind of you see the All Star game, you see the guys playing, and you see the crazy score 170, 150, and you see in the league last night, bunch of games 130, 101, 135, 104, 121, 120, 125, 120, 121, 109. And there is no denying it that this is probably the greatest era of shooting we've ever seen. Notice I didn't say offense, I said shooting. Because overall, what NBA players are able to do with their handling, their shooting, their finishing ability, just overall, is unbelievable. The skill and the talent we are witnessing. There's no denying it. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, all these guys, they brought this element of beauty to the game, a flash, a flamboyance, just a skill that's really hard to do. And And if you hear people say, oh, shooting is not that a skill, it's just no, shooting is a skill. It's very hard to do, and to see guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Dame Lillard and all these guys be so consistent in their shooting and be so good night in and night out is an admiration. It's not a knock on those guys. I think it's beautiful. I think, as I said, in every era there's a beauty to the product, and the beauty of this product is just the spacing, the ability to shoot, the handling, the versatility of everybody. It's amazing to watch. It's amazing to see. However, with all of that being said, I think the NBA is overkilling it with offense. And it's going to be detrimental in a couple of years, in my opinion, if they continue on this path. And here's why. And I'll compare it to the NFL. You see, in the NFL, they're obviously focused more on offense nowadays. It is about the offense. You're seeing teams pass more. You're seeing quarterbacks throw for unbelievable amounts of yards and unbelievable things. And you'll hear people say that this is the greatest generation of quarterbacks we've had. I'm not here to dispute that. I think that, Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers are some of the greatest quarterbacks, Drew Brees, we've ever seen. But the thing about the NFL is that it's not just about one player or one individual. Defenses still matter at times. You can win with the defense. Can you win a championship with the defense? I don't know. You could win with the defense though. You have running games. You still have an emphasis on defense, special teams. It's not just about throwing the ball. Which was why the NFL is so fun to watch every year, for me personally. And again, there's still the and again, this is gonna be like a macho man thing to say, but there's still the aggressiveness of the game, and the hard hits and all that stuff. Although they still protect receivers, but they're still tackling. They're still tackling. There's still intensity in the playoffs, and every year there's always a new contender, because the rosters are so big. So it's not just about one individual. It's really about the team. Whereas at the NBA, there is no more defense. You'll hear about, teams being good defensively. I don't know about that, and you'll have people say that, this era players would destroy players in the 90s. And as many people have mentioned, Huey Brown, GP, Michael Jordan, Kenny the Jet Smith, there's been numerous people saying, listen, back in the day, hand checking was extremely vital to the game and really made an impact. Because if you are a James Harden playing in this era, you have guys who have to put their hands behind their back so you don't force them to draw a foul. In the 90s, they were up at you when you were inbounding the ball, pushing you which way they wanted to, controlling you. A 6'6" guy, 220, can push you one way if you're James Harden and make it harder for you to dribble. Which is why I think with the hand checking back in the day, players were more skilled and better offensively because they had to adapt to that and be better with their dribbling and be better with their passing and be better with their decision making. Whereas now, when you've eliminated the aggressiveness, the defense, it's easy for anybody to be dribbling. Everybody can dribble now. And again, I don't want to diminish from guys like Curry and Kyrie and Harden, but my main point here is that the offensive style of basketball, the three-point shooting that has taken over the league, is kind of boring to me. Because you're going to have people say, oh my god, you got these teams scoring 150 and 140. And to me, that's not fun because it's just focusing on one element of the sport. And it's just the shooting. It's just shooting, dunks, fast breaks. You're missing out on other things. Like the dominant big who can post up. Mid-range is just not a thing anymore. Post-ups, team play, styles of play are not a thing in the league anymore. And it's sad. It really is. Because back in the day, you would have teams like the Bulls who were a great defensive team, but their triangle, they had stars. They did everything. You had the Knicks who played a style. They played defensive. They were aggressive. You had like the Golden State Warriors with run. Was it TMC or? I'm sorry, I messed it up. I'm sorry to Penny Hardaway and and oh my god, I'm blanking out on them. My god, Mitch Richmond, Tim Hardaway, and oh my god, what's his name? Mullins? Yes. I'm sorry, but they were an offensive team. You had the Supersonics who ran the fast break. You had the Rockets who were about Hakeem, but he would be kicking out to his 3 point shooters. You know what I mean? There was options. There was a balance of offense and defense. Teams played offense, but they could also play good defense. You had different styles of play. You had teams that had guards and were good. You had teams that had bigs that were good. You had teams that had both that were good. You had defensive teams. You had offensive teams. You had teams that ran the fast break. Teams that didn't run the fast break. You had a balance. In today's era, there's no such thing as balance. It's just run and gun, threes, dunks, fast breaks, poor defense, so many fouls, and those cheap fouls like Trae Young and Harden. God, don't get me started. Again, it's a skill, but it annoys me when Trae Young is just flopping into guys and they're giving him 3 free throws. Like, really? And I think that this emphasis on the offense and the 3 point shooting and just eliminating defense, it's going to hurt the product. And it's striking to me how NBA fans will just call this the greatest product they've ever seen, yet I feel like this is the lowest viewership ever. Or maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe people are still talking about it, but I just feel like, people don't care about basketball anymore as they did back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Maybe this is just me being cynical about offense, but I don't know. I just wish that the product continued to implore defense. I miss those eras where you were able to use all your weapons when you were defending a guy. Because of course, if you're letting Steph Curry, if you're not allowed to kind of hold Steph or hand check him, of course he's going to be doing what he's doing. He's a tremendous player. You're basically giving the offensive player all the tools he needs to dominate, and you're giving guys and defensive players no option to stop them. And again, in the era that we're in, people care more about just watching highlights and the mixtapes and just seeing the best plays. They don't care about the beauty of watching the entire game and seeing how it unfolds. And it's just like it's like people are just so impatient to watch, and they don't care about the defense because it's boring, quote unquote. Oh, I don't want to see a guy being stopped, but there's a beauty to that. And that being eliminated from today's product is sad. And I feel like if it continues down this path, you're going to oversaturate people with offense, and they're just going to think it's normal to see 150, 151, and it's not the case. It's not the case. And again, I just think the NBA just went way over here with the offense and just cares way too much about it. They got to kind of bring it back, reel it in a little bit. Bring back some things about defense, bring back at least hand checking. I think in the playoffs they should be a little more friendly with the fouls called. And there's other things about the product that I don't like. I don't like the fact that a lot of players switch teams. I don't like the fact that players just team up all over the place. That's just a personal opinion. I think that players, and again, you'll have people say, well, they shouldn't be dedicated to just the organization. If they suck, I can understand that, but there is a beauty to a guy staying on a team and trying to win with that team. And albeit maybe he never won the championship, but I'd have more respect for that guy because he tried his hardest to do that versus a guy like Kevin Durant or even a LeBron James who team hops. Again, all-time great players, don't get me wrong. They would have won championships regardless if they stayed with their teams, but it's just sad that they had to continue to switch teams and build these super teams and just I don't like that. I really don't. The reason I like the Warriors with Steph and Clay and Harrison Barnes and Draymond when they won a championship is because they built it naturally. And then they just had a super team inevitably. I like a guy like a Giannis or a Damian Lillard who stays in their markets. Devin Booker is still on the Suns. I wish there was more players that did that. And again, certain times in certain situations, maybe the relationship sours and you want to go somewhere else. I have nothing against that, but I just wish teams stayed together and I just wish superstars stayed in their markets because just having one or two teams be good is not good for the product. Because if you're thinking the Lakers and Nets are going to be the only two teams that matter, then why should I watch the regular season? It doesn't matter. ultimately, because it really kind of doesn't, because you just kind of know, like, oh, I should just wait for the playoffs. And you don't want that, because then you're eliminating a huge amount of viewership that people are going to watch and care about a young team developing, and you might never find out that a good young team is good. So I just think that the product, I don't want to say it's in dire straits, obviously it's the NBA, they're never going to lose viewership, but they need to figure out how they can bring balance back to the game, the teams, the organizations. Again, it's difficult because in the NBA, if you have the best player, you typically win because it's smaller rosters, and if you have two great players, you're bound to be deep into the playoffs. So there are some things that you can't stop, but I feel like if you at least try to incorporate defensive principles and you try and make there to be more competitive parity and balance, I think the product can really continue to grow and be even better than it is. And again, nothing against the offensive players and the offense. Again, it's a very skillful and talented league. But I feel like if you add defense and you show off that side, then you make those offensive players better because they have to work harder to score, and then they get more craftier and they do more things, and you see their greatness even more. So I think, again, the NBA has to find the balance. I think going one way or another is too much and it's too bad and it sucks. And I think they should really focus on perfect harmony and trying to make the product better than it is. Because I just feel like right now, with the oversaturation of shooting and offense, it's going to get stale, and then the league is going to be in a bad situation because then people are not going to care to watch the product anymore. They're just going to want to watch the highlights or just catch up on the game, and that's not good. So dear NBA, please fix this. Again, just me, a random guy, ranting about some things about the NBA, but I don't know if you feel the same. Maybe you don't, maybe you do. Please let me know. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next video. See you guys later.